All right, I think we're good. Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast, the only live streaming in person arts and entertainment podcast covering northeastern Pennsylvania, offering a true alternative voice in local media. We're coming to you from the NEPA Scene studio underneath Center City Print in downtown Scranton. I'm Rich Howells, the founder and editor of NEPA Scene. And tonight we're here with Scranton indie alternative punk rock singer songwriter Betty White Devil. Okay, DJ Baker, but Betty White Devil. We're going to talk about his debut album, Uranus Ore Mine. He just wanted me to say that. I think that's the whole reason he did this interview. His funny yet personal songs, touring as a solo act, working as a firefighter, and much more before he performs at the Ritz Theater, opening for Modern Ties and Southside Bandits this Saturday, January 27th. So please join our conversation with your questions and comments down below. We'll get to those later on in the show. Before we dive in, I just want to thank our sponsor, Center City Print, who's provided this studio space for us. We'll run their little ad read here, so that you don't have to listen to me read it. You still have to listen to me read it, but it's with like a much cooler looking video, so you don't have to stare at my head the whole time. Center City Print can bring your ideas to life in 3 locations: Scranton, Kingston, and Hazleton. These one-stop shops are locally owned and operated, offering high-quality printed products, copy and custom print services, and design solutions to help you, your small business, your nonprofit, your band, your photography, your art project, or any venture thrive. Visit them now at centercityprint.com and use promo code NEPAScene online or in person for 10% off. Towards the end then. So, what got you interested in music originally? When did you first pick up an instrument?
Well, probably like middle school. At that time, I was fortunate enough to where the school district had, music programs in schools, and so, elementary school you always have like the choral concerts and stuff like that, but in the middle school, you were able to do concert band or strings, like
Okay.
Violin and stuff. And so I did concert band, and I played the alto sax. And it was kind of fun because around that time it was the third wave of ska. So like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, Real Big Fish, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Is kind of hitting the mainstime, and so.
So it's cool to be in a school band all of a sudden, really, or at least to know
I wouldn't go that far because, you're still in a school band,
right? Okay.
But it was fun because you learned, or at least I learned, to have an appreciation for arrangements and things like that. But then ultimately, you see guitars and stuff like that on TV. You see the concert footage and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, that looks fun. So. Then eventually it just is all right, I'm not going to have, an orchestra in a garage somewhere, but it's a lot easier to get maybe guitar, bass, and drums going with your friends.
Okay.
Kind of a thing. I remember seeing the movie That Thing You Do and being like, oh, that looks fun. That's cool. And then later on in middle school and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, that did look fun. That was cool. Let's try this.
Tell us about some of those early bands that you were in. Were you in a couple different ones, or?
Yeah, it started out where a friend's father, he was actually one of the music program directors at a local high school that's no longer a high school. It was at Bishop Hannon High School. So we would meet up, and it would be maybe 4 in the afternoon, so after school and stuff like that. We'd bring our amps, and he'd be like, all right, yeah, here's some chords and music for these classic rock songs. And my friend, he played a little bit of the drums. And then so from that, we met a couple other kids in the area that played music. But within our core group of friends, a couple of us with that drummer, we were just like, oh yeah, let's start, jamming at each other's garages and stuff like that, or at their garage. Have some hangouts on Sundays, and then it just gradually became oh, let's yeah, like let's like be a band. Let's try and like, you know, so like we had like the little like recorder thing with just like one mic hanging up and being like, all right, yeah, push play and record at the same time. Like, do you remember like having to put Scotch tape over like an existing tape, a cassette tape,
Yes.
in order to like record over? So like there was like that going on. It was like that era where like now kids are like, oh, I got this DAW, you know, hey, plug in my computer, great, we have 1 million streams. Like back then it was just like, all right, let's hang that one microphone that came with like I remember like my family had like this CD player that also did like karaoke, so like I took the microphone from that. Okay. And like, you know, it's just trying to just piece it together. Kids today, you got it too lucky, too easy. I know you weren't there, man. But yeah. So it's just like from there, yeah, in high school, the first like official band name I think we had, and this trend has stuck with me I think my entire musical life, was LFN Titus. Right? So from then we...
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So then... well, like, I remember one, like, yeah. And then one night, when that, like, those members, like, kind of... It was my friend and I who played the bass. We then started playing with another drummer. And so we decided to go with a different band name. And we called ourselves the Cherry Hodes. Mm-hmm.
That sense of humor has not changed too much.
Yeah.
In all this time.
There must have been like I must have taken a hit to the head when I was like 13 or something, and I just stayed in that because I still do a lot of the things that I've done since 13, like, you know, skiing, you know, running, skateboarding, a lot of socks.
I was going to say, so you were an athlete too,
yeah.
in addition to the whole band.
Yeah. Like, that actually was what kind of paused a little bit of music. Like, when I was getting ready to finish up high school and stuff, wasn't really pursuing playing live or anything. I think my senior year of high school didn't play any shows or anything like that. And yeah, so I went to college and I ran track and cross country. And so that's like, you're doing that for like 320 some odd days a year. Maybe like a 2-3 week break after like outdoor track season finishes in the summer. You get like a couple of weeks, but then you have to start preparing for the fall cross country season in the middle of the summer. So like, yeah, it wasn't until like, you know, then going away to school, and then one of my best friends who I ran with all through high school, he ran with me in college, and then like we both played guitar. We started, you know, just jamming out in the old dorm room. We met a guy on the team also that he was a drummer, and from there, like, we started playing like, you know, campus open mics and stuff like that. Got on campus radio every now and then, and like just from there, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, like this is more fun than being really tired and sweaty and not having anyone see it. So like, let's go get tired and sweaty in front of maybe like 7 people, you know, to come watch us play music. So because of friends in area colleges and even like colleges outside, we went to school in the Philly area. We would go and, you know, play like different campus events at different colleges. And like, we're just like, oh, this is fun. This is cool. And like, so yeah, just, through college, like, you know, you again playing with my friend Tom, so then we start playing with like these 2 other guys that they had their bands, you know, and we all came from different backgrounds as far as, you know, one was in a ska band. He was an incredible bass player. His name's Carson. He's one of my good friends from Baltimore. My friend Josh, and we'd all like lived with each other like at in certain points. I think all of us lived together at one point except for Carson, but he mostly did because he would just come over after class and just, you know, stay until like 10 or 11 o'clock. But yeah, and like with those guys, I learned from Carson and Josh, I learned how to write songs. With Josh especially, because we lived with each other, and it's kind of like he told me it was like the Jackson Browne method, where I guess like the guys from the Eagles, when they were living like in an attached apartment with Jackson Brown, and I want to say it was like
the Philadelphia Eagles lived with Jackson Brown.
Yeah, right. It was that Kelsey, and that's why he's with her. But so he like taught me how, you know, you get your first line of a song, right, and you got your chord progression, so just kind of keep playing that over and over until maybe the second line comes to you, or like you like are able to like just keep fleshing it out, and so I definitely credit my friend Josh with like basically teaching me like a song, like how to write songs in a more like measured and methodical way, other than just like, you know, sitting somewhere and be like, this girl doesn't like me, and then hoping that you could like put it to music somehow later or whatever, you know, like
Right.
it's just yeah, it was great to be around those guys, because yeah, I just learned so much. In that band we played together, we were called the Spinsters, and so I guess the only pun with that is that we were, you know, just four dudes, not, you know, four old ladies.
Right.
And
you didn't
so,
wear old lady costumes?
No. We did, the only like kind of gimmicky thing we would do was that we would play like maybe the first two songs of the set, and then be like, okay, now we're gonna play musical instruments, and people were like, what? And like, you're doing that already. We're like, so you put the guitar on a stand, put the bass on a stand. We had, and one of us could have been playing like either mandolin or banjo or ukulele, and all of us except Tom, who played percussion, would then just swap instruments. So like on certain songs, like maybe I would play bass, Carson would play ukulele and Josh guitar, like maybe I'm on guitar and Carson's on bass and Josh is on the mandolin or the banjo. It was like, again, that era of the like the mid to late 2000s, where all of a sudden you're hearing these Mumford and Sons, you're hearing like, you know, this resurgence of folk music, but ours was it leaned towards like the more indie or like even anti-folk aspect. And our one good friend Nate, who's also an incredible vocalist and musician himself, he plays in Nashville now with a popular actually like touring band that he said to us, he's like, I love how you guys put such depressing lyrics to such happy music. And like, just like, all right, that's what's up.
That's the best compliment you could possibly ask for.
Yeah, and especially like I think that's ultimately like what I look for. Like I'm a very like lyric oriented person. I'm, you know, my guitar skills are what they are. When I was learning to play guitar, it was basically through sneaking up into my brother's bedroom and then like to his acoustic guitar and like just trying to learn. Like I remember basically learning the guitar via Oasis or Blink-182 songs.
Okay.
You know, so like I'm getting the power chords down from Blink, and then like the different open chords formations from the Oasis songs and stuff. But those guys, like, I always liked being around, and just at anything, people that are like much better than you at things. And so like ultimately, like I try to like I take their opinions very much to heart, because like I feel like I learned so much from them, and so to hear from them about something that I would be doing, then it's like, all right, cool, yeah.
So you moved out of the area for a while, and then you kind of came back.
Yeah.
You know, in that you know, span of time, you know, were you playing out there, or like, you know, where did you go? Where did you live for a while?
So I went away to school in the Philly area. Stayed down there for a couple of years afterwards. I studied. Well, I went in initially studying to be a high school English teacher, but then did my like observation hours. Realized I just kind of like reading and writing, so I switched over to focusing on writing and journalism, just as the industry started nosediving. So like I just stuck around, like I was a case.
Oh boy, do I relate to that.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So I just I remember when I was getting ready to graduate, I was working part-time at a fresh seafood market, and the owner was a really cool guy that I learned a lot from about like running a business, and just being good to your your employees and stuff like that. Because at the end of every day, it was like working for a coach. At the end of the day, he'd be like, all right, good hustle out there today. Good job. And like, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, he was like, well, what are your plans after graduation? And I was like, thinking 35, 40 hours a week. What do you think? He's like, oh, you're gonna stick around? I was like, yeah, man. Like, I'm trying to build a portfolio. No one's hiring. Like, I can't I can't just like be like, So
Sure.
Stuck around the Philly area. Did that. Was a caseworker for the homeless population for a bit after that. But then I got back into playing music. But then started having like that itch to like, all right, let me hop on to like this other like kind of thing I'd like to explore, which was acting. So I started looking into avenues through that and decided like, okay, I'm going to move back to Scranton and then make my way out west. And so while in the almost year, it was about a year that I came back to Scranton. In that time, got linked up with some people with local theater productions, like Connor at the Ritz Theater. We were doing like improv shows and stuff like that. Like we do stuff around here, go down to Philly Improv Theater, do stuff down there. Then with people from there, we would do like theater productions at the Mount Airy Casino, so where they bus in like, bunch of tourists and stuff like that. And they're like, all right, yeah, like, here's the play and stuff.
Okay.
And so did that. And then around that same time, one of my really good friends got into USC's screenwriting program. And he's like, hey man, I'm moving out to LA in August. Like, what do you think? I was like, all right, let me start saving, and start like, making the moves to like, make that really happen. And then, sure enough, January. So he moved out there in August, and that January I was on a plane and, I moved out to LA. I moved out with one suitcase. It's like a Miley Cyrus song. Hopped up the plane at LAX. My cardigan or something like that. I don't know. Fell in my hand like, yeah. And just basically hit the ground running. Got representation within that first month. And then was grinding for a few years. Just grinding. Was able to... It was neat because I still had like what I, would imagine is the journalist mind, where like I was really interested in seeing, how the things were the things, like how the sausage was made. Each experience was like a chance to see how these things that we ingest all the time are put together.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to have those experiences out there. Met like some really awesome people. Got to work with some fun people in both like, the cafe jobs, or restaurant jobs at night. And then even like on actual productions for things. I got to do some promo work with MTV. And so got to spend a couple days working with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson.
Oh, that's cool.
And like, and again, like seeing people that are very much in their game, there's no insecurities about them. Like, so on set the first day, they both come over to us lowly nobodies and they're like, hey, what's going on? I'm Vince. And I'm just like, yeah, you are. He's just like 1 million feet tall.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson had his kid on set and he was like, just like, maybe 2 or 3 years old. And he's like, hey, everyone, hey. Like, I forget what the kid's name is. Like, hey, say hi, like just really personable. It was cool to see them work because there was a script, but then they got the script and then we're just like, nah, let's just, and like, they just, riffed like they do. It was really cool to see them work. Being a comic book fan, you might find it neat
is it that obvious?
I got to got to hang out with and work with Sarah Douglas, who was Ursa in the Superman movies.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was really cool. Because in the year that I was in Scranton before I moved out to LA, I, along with doing like the local theater and like the improv stuff, I got a spot as in working in the wardrobe on a indie film that I spent a month up at the Hideout working on in their wardrobe department. And so with that, she was able to make a phone call and be like, yeah, come, see, because she knew that in our conversation at lunch that I was just very much interested in seeing how the things came together, that whatever aspect of a production that I felt I could offer something, that was what I was looking for.
Okay.
And so she was like, yeah, okay, you've got the experience in the wardrobe department. Why don't you come, and help out with this it was an indie film that she was working on at the time, which I forget the name of because it seemed like this trend where things would start off with a certain name or under a certain banner, and then it switches or you just don't hear about it ever again.
Yep.
But yeah, she was like, yeah, why don't you come do that? So I spent some time working in another wardrobe department, all the while then also mixing in the auditions I was going to each day. And just at certain times, coming home after a day of auditions and then a shift working at a restaurant and walking home in my neighborhood and just looking around and being like, those dots of that's the Hollywood Hills. That's the Hollywood Hills. It's a fucking palm tree, bro. All right.
Which, I mean, if you watch The Office, Scranton also has palm trees.
Yeah, that was the thing that I totally forgot. I must have just blanked out of my memory of growing up in the areas. Yes, we too have large palm trees and
right.
Impeccable weather.
And a beautiful ocean,
Yeah.
Lake Scranton is apparently an ocean.
Yeah. For all the
has a beach and everything.
all the miles that I've logged running around Lake Scranton, I never really noticed how beautiful that sandy beach is. I still have to take that booze cruise on Lake Wallenpaupack.
That's probably real.
Yeah, that actually, I don't is there, can I tell, I'm not a fan of Lake Wallenpaupack. I know a lot of people love going up the Paupack, they get their coolers, they get their koozies, and they go on south for a nice little boozy cruisy.
Yeah.
But, I, being up there for, I think it was, one 4th of July weekend, and just seeing the madness, I was like, nah, I'm good. Because I've been on lakes before, but this is a lake of a certain size that it just, there's no rhyme or reason how people are going to be taking their their boat or their jet ski, and it's just I'm going to just remove myself from the lottery of limb loss that is a 4th of July weekend up at Lake Wallenpaupack.
Good way to put it.
Yeah,
It really is.
it's just again, I grew up going to a small lake where there was an understood, you go counterclockwise with traffic, you don't if you see that there's too many craft out on the water, then maybe hold off for an hour or so, wait till it clears up a bit. And then just seeing things or even up in I've been up to the Finger Lakes. My sister went to school in the Finger Lakes, and it's just even they up there, they're we're not idiots. I mean, it's just the Paupack. Pack yourself a bandage or two. You're gonna need it. I saw this one guy dive in, head first, in brown water. I'm you don't know how deep that is, and sure enough, he hit his head. Everyone's panicking and stuff like that. And at that point, I just had enough of what do we do? What do we do? I was like, head injury? Take a nap. Yeah. And this woman was a nurse. She's like, you don't do that. No. I was like, but shouldn't he?
Shouldn't he do us all a favor?
Yeah. He's already bred. He's already tainted the gene pool. May as well let him live. He's already done the harm. But yeah, so I don't even know what we're talking about. It's just things, life. and
So when
boats.
did you end up coming back?
I came back beginning of 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been back a bit now. Yeah.
And now you're a firefighter.
I am, yeah. That was actually kind of why I came back. So
Okay.
out of all the things that I got to do, and there was just kind of like it's fun, and it was very interesting, and it was something I very much did care about. But like at a certain point, I remember a friend was like, "I'm signing up for this half marathon." It was in our neighborhood in LA, and I was like, and she was like, "Okay, well, do you want to like run it with me or kind of train me ish?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So it comes to like maybe like 3 or 4 weeks out. She's like, I didn't sign up. I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, so I decided to run it myself, and I was like, "Oh, I'm still like in shape. I'm still like fit enough." Long story short, I was thinking about like, okay, like what does this all mean? I see a documentary one night when I couldn't sleep, and I just was like online YouTubing like documentaries and stuff, and I saw one where it was either firefighting or going into Air Force pararescue. And my friends that like one friend in particular that introduced me to like guys like in that field and stuff like that, they're like, firefighting. We all want to be firefighters. so I was just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do this. But actually, what brought me home is that when I talked to a military recruiter, I was like, oh, so if I sign up with you, I ship out from here. And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do some family time thing, because if I'm gonna be like away in a training pipeline for 2-3 years,
Sure.
I'd like to get some good time in. So I come back. Start the process with a recruiter around here, and in that time a friend of mine sent me a text. It was like, hey, Scranton Fire Department is going to administer the test. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was already so far along with the recruiter. I took the test, I scored like such and such score, and they told me there's going to be like other things like coming up, and so I just basically had to tell the recruiter like, nah. Sorry. Which, like, I don't know, that probably screwed his bonus. Sorry, I'm just kicking stuff. His bonus for,
That's covering for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just kicked the table. His bonus and stuff like that. But yeah, I became a firefighter in 2018, and been doing that, and coach track and cross country with one of my best friends, and as of past year or 2, 2 years, doing the Betty White Devil.
I was gonna say, so Betty White Devil didn't come until 2022.
Yeah, I created the Instagram page the day that Betty White passed away.
Okay.
And
Did
so
that name just pop in your head?
no, that was so we were at the Bog, some friends and I, and we were just joking about fake album titles for like bands, and Betty White Devil was one of them. Deep in Thought was one. 2001 Space Thoughtasy, Baffa Metropolitan Opera, like things like that. Girth Brooks was one.
That's amazing. You should change.
Yeah, well, hey, they're all going to be the album titles now.
Girth Brooks.
Yeah, I play some bar shows as James Taylor Swift. Those are yeah. So we just were riffing on it, and then like I was like, yep, you know what? I'm gonna pull the trigger. Betty White Devil it is. So that's how that name came about. It's like any good story. Started at a bar. Speaking of, I'm gonna crack one of these. We got the old Lion's Head Ice.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's surprisingly pretty damn good.
The ice is gonna break. It's a callback to those of you who weren't listening earlier because you weren't here. We're talking Christopher Walken, Dead Zone.
The ice
is
gonna break.
I want to do like a sketch where there's a restaurant with a walk-in cooler, and like someone's like a new guy's getting the tour, and like they're like, here's the Christopher Walken. And he's like, what? Like, just open it up. And they open it up, and there's Christopher Walken going, the ice! And he hits it with his cane. It's gonna break!
They stole that from Top Secret.
What's that?
They run up to the janitor closet and they open it and there's a janitor in there.
Oh.
There is sauerkraut in my Lederhosen.
Well, son of a bitch.
Have you never seen Top Secret?
No.
Fix that tonight.
Yeah. Was it like a Top Gun or spy movie parody?
Yeah, with Val Kilmer.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the one in the 80s? Or no, that's Real Genius. That's Real Genius, I'm thinking of. But yeah, this is Lion's Head.
See, not bad.
Yeah, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
I remember like early days of turning 21, getting like the $9 or $10 case of Lion's Head,
right?
And then just doing the puzzles and stuff like that, and and dealing with it the next day.
Well, these are a surprising 6% too.
Yeah, like this is
for it being it's like it has kind of a light look on the can, but it's not.
Yeah, this is tasty. I'm a fan. Lion's Head. Give me money.
Hey, it's our money.
Give them money.
So when you started Betty White Devil, did you imagine this as strictly a solo thing? Did you want to do a full band? Like, what was the initial idea?
Yeah, well, I kind of modeled it after what Connor Oberst did with Bright Eyes, in that it was him, and he's got like his producer and musician partner Mike Mogus, but then they also have like a couple core people that come in and out, or it's basically whichever musicians are available.
Right.
So I knew like, okay, I had all the songs, I pretty much had all the parts. When it came time to record, I did all the guitar parts, all the bass parts and stuff, and just had friends come in to play the drums. So I had a friend, Jason Cracer, play some of the songs on drums, and then Steve Werner from Broke Pines, Young Burgo, and like every other band that needs a drummer.
Pretty much, yeah.
He played on some of the tracks, and it all came out great. And so now we're kind of in the early stages of, I actually just messaged some guys today about like, I've got these dates coming up, throughout the year. It'd be cool if we could, whatever your schedules allow, because they're all in other bands. There's Jamie Zaleski, whom I'm playing with Saturday. One of his bands is Southside Bandits. But then he also fronts a reggae band called Young Lion. So like, there's two there.
Right.
Steve's got his, menagerie of musicians that he plays with. And then a bass player, John Ventry, who also has like a whole bunch of bands that he plays with. So we're just gonna try and see, like, if something comes up, all the schedules align. Yeah, we'll hit a full band show, maybe a couple times this year.
I thought John retired to be an airline pilot.
I saw that he has this. I messaged him today. I was like, "And you're a pilot?"
Terrifying.
Well, it just goes to show that, like, people, they're all just people. All doctors, they're just people. Pilots, they're just people. The person that runs 4chan is a garbage person, but
still,
people.
Yeah, probably.
No, but yeah, he's
passable as a person.
Really talented all around, like, these people, and I'm just like, wow, like, yeah, I was like, yeah. In the message, I was like, you're a pilot.
So, when I first met you at the NEPA Scene open mic, seeing these songs, done acoustically, and then hearing the album with the full, it was really cool to see those songs transition. Did you kind of write them that way too? You're writing them on acoustic guitar, and then they're just kind of blowing up into these bigger...
Yeah, like that's what I think. What lends itself to a lot of the flexibility that Betty White Devil has, where the songs are written, like all of them except for like one of them was written on an acoustic guitar, and so it allows me the opportunity to play or record full band, but then also it's been what I think is a major help in being able to play the shows that I've been able to play, in that I get to play The bars and the breweries where they want the 2 or the 3 hours and stuff like that. And my originals, like, yeah, in those nights, because I don't have 2 or 3 hours worth of originals, so you're playing the fun covers and everything, throwing the originals in, and it allows for that adaptability to be able to play those types of venues and events, because it's like, these were written on an acoustic guitar, so they translate to that, seamlessly. And then when it comes time to like doing it with an electric, full band situation, they're just as ready to go. So it's part of what I think has allowed me, like, the most of the opportunities I've had is just because, like, the thing that I hope happens with the record is that I would like to play, some more like rock show environments. I kind of sometimes feel like I'm in a weird limbo where it's like, I'm not punk enough, I'm not polished enough to be like on the outer end of the spectrum, where it's like, you get like the, sexy people with guitars, like, making you want to make out and stuff. And it's like, my music's for people that have MySpace pages, man. Like, it's like, like I emo and indie and stuff like that is like, where I'm home. But like, I'm hoping with the record is that, like, some bands and bookers and promoters and stuff like that are able to see, like, oh, okay, like, this is what Betty White Devil can bring. I've no reservations, Anthony Bourdain, about about playing on bills with like all kinds of punk bands, rock bands, or then just going the other end of the spectrum and like, okay, it's the acoustic singer-songwriters thing, because like, you come out to the Ritz on Saturday, I'm gonna bring it. I'm playing with some rock bands, but I might even wear like a leather jacket.
Oh shit.
Nah, probably not. I'm not that cool. Hey.
Well, it's cool too, because obviously you've seen the Scranton music scene in its many forms over the years, and to see like a mid-sized venue kind of back in Scranton, I know has a lot of musicians excited. I'm sure you're
absolutely.
You're one of the first that gets to really play in terms of playing the theater with a real show. I mean, it's only like what, the second concert really.
Yeah, first is the worst, second is the best. No, it's awesome because the area when we had Tinks, I remember going to concerts there like Thursdays through Sundays. Like there was always some kind of like a regional or national tour. I think like did Rusted Root play there? I think like
I believe.
I mean, but I remember going to see like the Bloodhound Gang there. I know Less Than Jake came through there. Mm-hmm. Even like Three Doors Down. I remember early on seeing them there and stuff like that. Like, so it was this cool downtown concert space, and then even the Cultural Center. Like I remember all the concerts that they had there. Like, did the Backstreet Boys go through there, or was like some of the singing groups?
I would, but at least one of those boy bands probably went.
I totally didn't go to that one, but no. So I remember like in high school, like seeing Jason Mraz and Gavin DeGraw, and even like Maroon 5 when they were still touring in a van, playing at the Cultural Center, and then like those things just started shifting away. And so now it's nice to where, from what I gathered from the interview with those guys the other day, is that like, yeah, that's going to be like the downtown spot, like, where they even said like they bringing, like right now the bands are going to Wilkes-Barre to play those large venues down there.
All right.
So then,
Center, that sort of stuff.
So like bringing them up this way, it's like, it's going to be really good for the downtown just resurgence, that it seems like we're in the midst of. You've got all those, like all the construction and stuff like that going on down there, as far as more and more people moving in. So it's like, yeah, you got to give them something to stick around town and spend their money. Right,
exactly. So hopefully this will go well. And let's get into the album itself.
Sure, yeah.
So we're going to do a little segment we call The Breakdown. where we go track by track on an artist's latest release to hear the inspiration and the stories behind each song. This can be about the lyrics, the composition, the recording, or all of it. Whatever you want to share, you maybe think is the most interesting aspect of that particular song, whatever. Before we even get into that, let's do the cover. Is just fantastic. Yeah, this little alien dude, just put him up on the screen there. Uranus Ore Mine was just released on December 27th. Who did the cover art?
That was, I feel so fancy when I get to say this. That was an Italian artist named Nathan. This dude, young kid actually, that I saw their art online, messaged them and was like, hey, I see the work that you're doing. It kind of had this almost like a similar animation as Futurama and Simpsons kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I really like that. And there were samples of other bands and musicians that he'd worked with. And I was like, this is what I'm going for. In fact, I sent him a crayon, however you pronounce it. I don't know. How are things pronounced around here? Yeah. Crayon or crayon?
Crayon is a berry.
Yeah. Boom. Love it. Keeping it in my back pocket.
So 1 penny every time.
So yeah, I sent him a drawing that I had done. I was like, this is what I'm going for. And he was like, oh, this is great. And so then instantly, within a day or so, he sent me, a couple mock-ups. And I was like, awesome, this is fantastic. So yeah, that's the story behind that.
So the first track is Without a Fight. Tell us a little bit about that.
That one, first track, so we thought it had myself and the producer and engineer that I worked with, Eric Ritter at Windmill Agency, recording this. We thought that had a good energy to kind of kick the door in, or just kind of be like, we're here, for the album. And that was written, at least the chorus is slightly from the perspective of if the subjects in Gin Blossom's Hey Jealousy, if they got back together and they basically just realized we were better off apart, kind of a thing. So the lyric is, hey, jealousy, do you think it's right if I disappear without a fight? And so that's kind of where that came from. Part of it was written while living in LA, and then I think finished it up sometime thereafter when I was just tinkering around with the guitar here in good old Scranton. But yeah, that's a fun one. I really like that one.
Next up is I Don't Believe.
I Don't Believe. That was one that I was very much listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, but also that category and style of music, but also I still listen to punk and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be too fanciful with the language, but also it started off almost, I remember sitting, that was written a while back, I think when I was living in Philly even, with the chord progression, I was like, oh, this is a blues progression. And so it was much slower. And for whatever reason, along with, Bob Dylan and Adele, and I think maybe the Blink album Neighborhoods had just come out somewhere around that time. So those were the blender of music that I was listening to. And yeah, that's how that came about, that song.
Wisdom and Learning.
Wisdom and Learning. That is, I like that one because that's one of those, an example of cannibalizing other songs or snippets of things that I'd been working on. So I had these verses, but I had no music to them. But then I tried putting some music to them, and then just forgot about it. And then one night in my home in Scranton, I had this music area in my basement where I did the demoing and stuff like that. Was just kind of strumming these, this kind of progression out of E, and that's where that came from. I like that one because it also has that 90s alt vibe to it.
Yeah.
But then also it's still like, I remember when I sent an early demo to it to a friend of mine, he was like, wow, that bridge verse, it's like very saves the day. And I was like, yeah, awesome. Because it's like, so show me where they hurt you and I'll pour salt in the wound. It's almost like that line in Rock's Tonic Juice Magic where he's like, I'd buy you lemonade and I'd throw it in your face. But yeah, that's my my 90s alternative to emo pop punk inspiration there.
Well, that's the thing too, is I think people maybe hear the title, they see the artwork, they're thinking of like, oh yeah, this is going to be really funny, jokey type of songs and stuff. But it's really more like that's kind of the titles and stuff, and maybe some of the, like a line here and there. But they're all really they're like, love songs, heartbreak songs, things like that, at least maybe on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, it's most definitely like with a lot of them, I could think so like, oh yeah, that because the line in Wisdom and Learning, taxi cabs to the waterfront and the same few bars where we get drunk. It's like, yeah, I spent a lot of time in my 20s or early 20s, in Philadelphia and New York City, taking trains and stuff like that back and forth. And like, a lot of, taxis and, just, the verses are almost constructed as if it's like almost a stream of conscious retelling of just a very blurry, hectic, evening or experience in New York. It's like I do try to like let me draw you in with the joke and then like trick you into like feeling something kind of a thing. Yeah, and like the title itself is like kind of like reflecting back on like it's the idea of like gaining wisdom and learning from experience.
Which definitely comes in a lot of that, 90s, 2000s, pop punk, emo, things like that. I think of those types of things where you have, maybe some of that stuff that's, funny, but then you're listening, you're like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely a more serious song, or they go from funny to serious. You have guys like Blink-182 or The Offspring or something like that like, they do that song, and then right after that, it's like, oh wow, this is actually emotional and totally different.
Yeah, it doesn't I think on Enema of the State doesn't Dysentery Gary precede Adam's song?
Right,
it's like it's like what? Oh, bro,
bummer, dude.
And then it goes into all the small things. Emotional abuse.
Seriously. So this one is definitely one of my favorites, the Nautilus, and this one has some like how do you get that sound? Is that an electronic drum?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a drum sample. Like, so when I was developing my like home studio space and stuff, I got like some gear, and then like there was like these sample packets of like drum loops and beats and stuff, and so I spent some time kind of just like copying, pasting, and like doing the drum track, and then I just was like, oh, okay, well this just sounds neat. And then like one day plugged in the electric, and then like just started messing around with that, and then I came up with like that sort of progression, and then I just decided like, all right, let me go with this, because this sounds like, the way I describe that song is if Phil Collins was on Drive-Thru Records. Like if there was like or Peter Gabriel's very like angsty nephew kind of thing. Like just so yeah, that's how that came about. Was I like that one. Like that one, a friend of mine, actually the same friend that he was the one that got me out to LA and stuff like that, Kevin, he did a little video for it, which is on
I
YouTube.
saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and so like he took his, I asked him, because I was like, I was like, this just has like a very, Venice, beach vibe to it. And so I was like, can you make like, take your dog out and make it about your dog? And so like, yeah, basically that's what the video is the dog, like, having a time. Like, and like Gary, the dog, is such an incredible actor that he was able to convey, these forlorn emotions and the listlessness that one might experience in one of the most beautiful areas in the world, post breakup, and then he finds himself in the end. He finds himself.
Yeah, Gary is an incredible actor.
Yeah,
you guys got to see it. Look up the music video on YouTube. It's awesome. Next up is Sunset Cliffs.
That was written. Sunset Cliffs is a area in San Diego, in the Ocean Beach area, that it's this really cool path along, these ledges that go out into the ocean, and that song itself was written in the pandemic. So I was thinking about, all that time, because I literally, pandemic happens, and just a few months prior, I was out visiting friends in LA, and was very much looking forward to going back and stuff like that, and just keeping that, because since I had moved back, I'd still pretty much every year had visited. But that one was written mid-pandemic, in the mornings, where nothing was really happening. I mean, not that much was happening in general, but I just found myself picking up the guitar around 7:30 in the morning and just kind of slowly chipping away at that kind of song. That one, it's been interesting with that one, because people have messaged me or have told me to my face, they're like, oh yeah, I really like the Cliff song, or Sunset Cliffs. And she's like, oh cool. And which is kind of ballsy, because it's a 4-minute plus long song.
Yeah.
And so in this day and age, where you're always pressed for, get to the hook, get to the sound clip and stuff. I'm glad that people have taken the time to listen to that. And on the drums, when we were recording that, I had absolutely no idea what needed to be done. And Steve went in there, and he did a couple takes of a couple things, and then he landed on this kind of swing kind of progression, and then I was just that's it. That's the one. He brought it to life for sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
Next up is Whitewash.
Whitewash was that was the first song that I demoed for Betty White Devil at home, but it was written at least in most part a couple years prior, because I remember I was thinking specifically, there's a couple things in there where the lines of take off the ring from your hand and your bottom lip. It was just basically around that time in your 20s where you're transitioning from being that who you were in college or just a little bit afterwards, to then getting into the professional world.
Okay.
But then also having ideas of where you are, where you're going to be. And just the changes that then happen, throughout. And that's why that song's a fun one. Jason Kraser, he was the one that did the drums on that one, and the ending of it is supposed to kind of convey that whole the idea of just crashing everything down, start wiping the slate clean, whitewashing, the idea of sanitizing maybe a past or a certain aspect of yourself in order to then just go on to the next part. And that chaos at the end is thanks to Jason on the drums.
Nice. Track 7 is In My Mind.
In My Mind was the last one written for the record, and it was started maybe the first verse when I was one of my visits back to LA. I remember just having a quick idea of yes, this line, and then finished last year while sitting at a deso where I had just the chord progression going through, and then I did the Josh method, or the Jackson Brown method of, I had that first line or so and the chord progression, so I just kept over and over until the song came out. And then okay. 2 lattes later, I was just oh fuck, let me go home and quick did a demo of it, got it down, and was like, okay. And then I was playing down in Philly, or Philly area, Ardmore, so just down the road from Villanova, and I was like, all right, yeah, here's one that might be on the record. And so I'm an opening band. No one really has to pay any mind to me. And after that song, it got a response. And then I just hear some dude go, "Put it on the record." So I was like, all right, cool. So that one's kind of that's my Adam song, I suppose, you know.
And sometimes it's all it takes, just that one person.
Yeah, I don't even know who he was who he was at the show to see, because I didn't get to talk to him afterwards. But whoever that guy was, cool.
Next up is Rorschach Heart.
That one, again, spending a lot of time on trains going from Philly to New York. So it's just kind of like, you know, you're sitting on a train, you're seeing things, thinking things. Again, listening to a lot of Bob Dylan, and just wrote it as kind of just an ode to like folk music, but like with a little bit more modern imagery, I think. I like the lyrics in that one. That stands out, and again, it stands out because one of the friends of mine that's a musician that I very much looked up to and still look up to, he said, I really like the line about the whirl of dancing leaves. And like, cause it was like, I forget exactly in how the line comes up, but it's like the imagery of like you're walking with someone and the air brought cold winds rustle in the trees and we found ourselves surrounded in a whirl of dancing leaves. And then like there's other stuff in the background because it's kind of like it almost, again, like I'm a fan of music, and so like it's gonna leak into what I write is inspiration from people that I listen to. And so Conor Oberst, right, he had a lot of things written about being in New York City, but in such a way that it's like, oh, okay, here's some like folk music, but it's like you don't think about New York City when you're writing folk music, or at least like Americana and stuff like that. So the urban imagery of hearing sirens and stuff like that in the backgrounds, or like being on a train. Like the first line is on the L, which is the elevated train itself. So yeah, she's about being on trains, reading books, and just being there.
Next up is Are We in Love?
Are We in Love was my first attempt at writing like what I thought was like a rock song. So like everything was always just like, oh, this is like punk, and this is this, and the emo and that. And like that one like came out as like being like what I was attempting to do, like let me just try and like write like a rock song, and so like it opens with like that chord and like like that I'm like, it's like in G kind of, and like and yeah, in that song what was neat was came out in the bridge where like Jeremy Burke said, he was like, oh, I like how the stuff on the album, like there's always these moments in songs that stick out, and so with that song in the bridge, like these spacey synths are brought in. There's like a little bit of like a digitization of the drums a little bit, like it's like there's like this musical moment that then just like fades back out once it gets back into the song itself, but it just exists. Like there's a couple songs like on Sunset Cliffs there's like little synth bells or something. Other songs like just like these moments of things that are just, nope, that's a thing, and then like it's never revisited. It's just like it's there. But yeah, I really like the bridge in that song.
Now, I will probably not pronounce this correctly. Hugasafa.
But if you say it real slow and exhale at the same time, she's like, Hugasafa. So it's that's my sneaky way of being able to say who gives a fuck. So it goes Hugasafa, Hugasafa. And then depending on like maybe how you know, how saucy I feel, I will say "Who Gives a Fuck."
Okay.
Those would be like the 21 and over shows outside the Bible Belt. That like I'll say, yeah, who gives a fuck? Because it's like, yeah, like I'll always say like, yeah, anyone who's ever been stuck in traffic and you know, on 76 in Philadelphia, like because if I played down in Philly often enough where I get to talk about being on the Schuylkill, because the fucking first line is see
Right.
the sun rise on the Schuylkill. It's like yeah. And when I played in New York, this one person that was playing also that night, we didn't know this until after my set, but they were like, wait, do you mention the Schuylkill? It's like, yeah. And they're like, oh, and then you also mentioned Cherry Hill. I was like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, my mom's from there. I'm actually, are you from Scranton? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, I'm from Wilkes-Barre. Just like, awesome. What are you doing here? He's like, oh, you're a musician. You live in New York now. Okay, awesome. So it's like throwing up a flag or like a sign that's like, yeah, it's like, so if I play anywhere and I'm mentioning the Schuylkill or Cherry Hill, which is I believe northern New Jersey, yeah, because that's usually what pass in and about that area going to New York City from here and stuff. But yeah, it's that's a fun one. That's the one that like. That is the Bob Dylan on the Vans Warped Tour song, because it's got that nice harmonica just in there. You know, get a nice little harmonica burn every now and then. Never hurt anybody. Just ask Bruce Willis. I mean, maybe it does. Ugh.
Yeah, he's not doing great.
No, man. All right, no more harmonica on my show.
That's it. In memory of Bruce Willis and his short-lived music career.
Yeah, right. Wasn't he started playing at Hollywood and was always playing the harmonica there?
Yeah. I'm much the chagrin of everyone who was there.
Yeah.
You have to start your own place to have a stage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see those episodes of Bar Rescue, and John Taffer's like, and what kind of acts do you have playing here? And the person like who's like bar is falling apart is like, mine. It's a doom metal band. We play sludgecore.
Do people actually like that?
No. It's like, yo, you're in Boise. You know? Just throw on something with like a hoot and a holler and a couple of cowboy boots.
Yeah, right.
Love you, Boise. Let's hear it for the Boise. That's the next album. It's gonna be all Madonna covers. Or no, wait, that's Whitney Houston, right? Yeah. Way apart. Hey, one of them's still alive.
Shockingly, which one, too?
Yeah.
If I had to take that bet.
Right. Yeah, that wouldn't have been.
Well, she believed that the children were the future, not herself.
Fair enough. Wonder what her children are doing right now.
One of them died. It's got
Fuck
dark.
the
It's
suck
got dark. Lion's
Wrap
head.
it all up for tonight on that. No,
Your spirit is gonna break.
We got a couple more. Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. They beat Penn State this year. Woo! No, so that again is just a fun indie folk punk-ish song that New York City is brought up again. A friend pointed out that I write about the ocean and New York a lot, so I
Is that
might.
just the stuff that sticks out in your mind? Or?
Yeah, I mean it's like one of those things that like they were the places that I remember. Yeah, the time in New York. Like there's one of my friends who lived there for a number of years, and even people that I know that live there now, they're like, you don't ever really win in New York. You just kind of hope to break even. You know? And so it's just like, yeah. And so like, I just, that song, just imagining the idea of like, yeah, you have this hectic life there, and then they just, you got to retreat back to the small, easy pace of life. In which case, in that song, would be Mississippi, which I've never been to Mississippi. I don't know if I ever would need to go to Mississippi.
It's actually quite nice.
I like humidity though. Like that's what
Here
I'm.
in the winter.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, then maybe that's the thing. Is like yeah, like there's like that whole like Gulf area where I'm like, it would be cool, but also humidity and I don't girls, you know. Humidity and I don't get along. But yeah, so it's just a little romp around. There's some tongue twisters in the song that I have to be sure to enunciate.
Now here's a fun title. Boots a Knockin' Fun.
So that song, and he is credited, I believe, on in the distribution website files and stuff like that. My friend Josh, he and I, when we were living together, he was working on, like, he had this beginning of a progression, and then he had like the first like line or so, and he was like, yeah, like, and we kind of constructed this idea of like, yeah, you're out, it's maybe one of those like Roadhouse style bars, you know, where they got the chicken wire in front of the stage, and like, you know, this real like raucous, rowdy type environment, and just wrote a story about that. So he had like the first couple lines, and then I just took it upon myself to just kind of go with it. And like a couple days later, I was like, hey, what do you think of this? And then, you know, it became the song. And so like he's responsible for getting that started. And I used his methodology again. He needs to do one of those masterclass online things where it's like, songwriting with Josh.
Yeah.
But yeah, he so that one's another fun one that has harmonica. Yeah, Jason played the drums in that, and I remember being in the studio and being like, you know that part in Ace Ventura where he does the in the jazz club? And like Jason's like, yeah, but all right. And Jamie Zaleski, he was there that day too, watching this happen. And I'm pretty sure it was the day that Jamie was in there. We were doing that. But yeah, it's just a fun song about infidelity, you know. Because when is it not fun?
I mean, it's fun for at least one.
Yeah. One definitely, if they don't get found out. The others, they always find out. I just finished watching the second season of White Lotus, rewatching it. So there's some infidelity in that one. Infidelity Bank.
And then the last track is Climbing Up the Frozen Alpine.
Yep. That, again, my friend Josh. So he always told me this thing where he's like, if I can't think of a song title, I just try and pick out a cool lyric or what I think is cool. And so that was just like this simple, folky nod to like the Tom Petty, Bob Dylan style of just, hey, I'm going to bounce back and forth between these two chords and then change it up for the chorus a little bit with a little bit of harmonica. And the title is just taken from one of the lines where it's like, I'm through climbing up the frozen alpine. You know, that was also like partially maybe inspired or written while visiting friends living in Utah. So I think that might be where the imagery of the frozen alpine comes in.
Okay.
But yeah. But like it was the kind of the last song. No, it is the last song, but it was like one of the last that I decided to include on the album, and I decided to put it in the last place because it just felt like it would be a nice way to close things out. You know, you've got like all these different sounds and styles of music coming together, and so people that like the songs like Sunset Cliffs or In My Mind or Rorschach, they also like the Climbing Up the Frozen Alpine, you know, kind of a thing. So it's nice. That's one of the songs that most definitely gets thrown in when I'm playing at the breweries and stuff like that, where it's just like, it's simple, you know, maybe it's an alternating rhyme scheme. Something like that. I don't know. I can't really think of the lyrics right now, but it's like, it's harmless, you know, just throw it in a set list and like, you know, my friends' kids will dance to it.
So it really came together as like this really nice package. I feel like flows from one thing to the next, and it just wraps up. It begins and ends really really strong. Like it's a really solid album. I think
Thank you.
Put you could tell the amount of effort that went into each part of it, and listening to you, even having the other people come in and add certain parts and stuff like that, and really kind of flesh it out into what it is. I think it came out really nice.
Thanks. Yeah, it was something that we definitely took our time with, making sure that the decisions we're making were like, yeah, no, this is what the song is. This is what it needs. It was very much. I was in great hands working with Eric at Windmill Agency, because I mean his roster, his even backstory as a musician in his bands, being successful in the 90s, living in LA, like playing with all these bands and meeting all these bands, and like how just he came to have this wealth of knowledge of how things were done in the studio, that like I was just like, yeah, no, for sure, like whatever you
right, defer to him.
Yeah, it was like one of those like we're doing like takes of things, and again like he is a very, like, his attitude and his temperament was just what I needed to feel like, yeah, okay, like that's good enough. Because you can get in your own head,
right,
as far as like you constantly letting perfect getting in the way of quality and good enough of a project or an output. And he was able to basically, knowing his background and where he comes from, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, if he thinks that this works, I'm gonna trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
his name comes up again and again on this show and in articles and things like that too. So he's definitely somebody that a lot of people turn to in the area.
Yeah. Just,
what an ear for it,
Yeah, incredibly nice, and like, yeah, just I feel like you could do an entire episode just on people praising him.
So one of the other things I want to talk about is you'd mentioned a lot of your travels and things like that, and you do some touring by yourself.
Yeah,
and I talk to a lot of bands that are going on tour, and that's obviously it's a whole thing in itself. But like to do it on your own, I don't know, is that intimidating or scary or anyway, or is that just you just naturally comes to you? Because I don't know, I'd be a little wary.
It's kind of like it assuages some of the wanderlust,
Okay.
that I definitely appreciate how like I've got access to very many things just from just being out my front door, but also I've always wanted to go places and see things, and
Yeah.
if an opportunity takes me to down the line a bit, sure, why not? Oh, out to Gettysburg, like I'm doing multiple nights out there in April, New York, Philly, Boston area. It's just I knew it was something that like needed to be done, as far as just being on the grind, so to speak. I come from the generation where like yeah, we had the internet and everything, but so much of your exposure and experience and stuff like that comes from like, all right, let me go to this region, okay, and then like let me try and circle back to there like a couple months later, kind of a thing. Most places when I'm traveling, yeah, like they have their own sound systems and everything like that, so I just basically need to bring my guitars and like a couple other pieces of equipment here and there, but like I'm not like usually lugging like huge bits of equipment. And I do nowadays. I'm spoiled now, where my girlfriend and I will just look at it in terms of like she'll join me, if she can, and it becomes like let's spend a weekend at this place, or
Okay.
like, or hey, like yeah, we're basically going on mini weekend road trips, and then just having to like do a side quest of like, you know, playing an hour or like, you know, 2 hour set somewhere.
Well,
So
that's a
it's
supportive
fun.
girlfriend. Cause it wouldn't all do that.
She's cool. She's cool like that. She's very much a creative herself, an academic. She works in academia, but also has very much has lived LA, you know, Massachusetts, a lot of times in New York, Philly, and stuff like that. So we both kind of have that, you know, Scranton is our base for now, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just, you know, throw a dart at the map. Let's see where we go.
So really, I mean, some of these dates could kind of work as like a you know, test to see like, oh, is this area cool? Is this a nice place? You know, that sort of thing too.
Well, and it's neat because now I can have like a even more perspective. Like, so spent a lot of time living in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is like Revolutionary War history around every corner. And so now the times that I've been going out to Gettysburg to play, more and more I'm like, oh yeah, Gettysburg is like a Westchester, but more Civil War oriented, obviously. It doesn't have the train that takes you into Philly or anything like that, but it still has, it's like a similar style of a downtown vibe with the restaurants and stuff like that. Or like going up to Cambridge, and I know the area kind of that we're playing because, or that I'm playing because friends of mine had lived there. And so like I'm like super excited to check out this bagel shop that I really liked being out there. It's called Bagelsaurus. Dinosaur theme.
Now I want it.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And like the place that I'll be playing, I'm not sure who the other two bands are just yet. I'm going to be opening. But yeah, it's at this cool brewery that has like, you know, original music playing, and like it's a supportive music community. And then yeah, it's just to hang out around Cambridge and like, you know, talk to them Harvard snaps. And like I played in Connecticut in New Haven at this cafe that just down the road from Yale and stuff. So like in a band in college, I played at Princeton. So like I'm just trying to hit like all the Ivy Leagues.
Okay.
And I feel like if I appear at them enough, maybe I'll get that honorary doctorate. Punography is my focus.
There you go. Well, I mean, they hear that title,
Yeah.
and they're going to be like, well, obviously this is for academics.
Yeah, my dissertation will just be me talking shit to them. Like I was like, oh, I thought it was a dissertation. I don't know. Comedy.
Well, you know, at some point, the NEPA Scene Podcast will have a budget that we'll have a studio audience, we'll have a band over here, and we'll have the drummer to, you know, give us that boom.
It's like I love the crash and burn though of it all. It's like, oh, all right.
You know, as it stands, we lost our camera guy, so I'm gonna switch the cameras there. Poor Jason has been sick for the past couple of days, so he wanted to spare everybody listening at home all the coughs and sniffles and everything there. So he just went outside to go hack along.
He's actually inserting a breathing tube. oddly on the wrong end.
Yeah. It looks really uncomfortable.
Hope you used enough Vaseline. Although I heard you're not supposed to use Vaseline. You don't. Oh no, it's only. Yeah.
He's an experienced gentleman. I think he might be into it. I don't know.
It's 2024. Anything goes.
Yeah. That's we'll start a Patreon, and we'll have an extra show afterwards, and you guys can see all that stuff. But yeah, on the regular show, sorry, we can't do that to you. We'll get zucked right away. So we have this show coming up this Saturday. It is Betty White Devil opens for Modern Ties and Southside Bandits at the Ritz Theater in downtown Scranton this Saturday, January 27th at 8 p.m. Tickets are $12 and on sale now, so make sure that you go and check that out. And if you haven't seen the Ritz Theater yet, if you've only seen like my cell phone videos that we've been streaming over the past week, or the slightly higher quality one that we did with the open mic there, definitely go check out the Ritz Theater on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll be. Do I say it? Do I say it? Do I say it?
Go for it.
We're putting on the Ritz. We're putting on the Ritz.
I was waiting for somebody to make that pun. I have not heard that yet, or the
Yeah.
reference, I should say. You know, at the very least, like.
I was gonna do a stupid promo video where I would wear a balaclava and have like a tie and then be eating like Ritz crackers, but like I was like, I'm an idiot. I might still do it. Maybe Saturday morning, just be like quick Instagram video, like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, Southside Bandits, modern times.
See, I'm torn between wanting to reference, Young Frankenstein putting on the Ritz, or the one-hit wonder Taco.
Yeah.
In the '80s, putting on the Ritz.
That's the one that because I just
because it's
putting on the Ritz.
it's so fucking weird and
Yeah.
amazing.
It's like my mind wonders like, okay, when we had like these CIA black sites where they're doing like their enhanced interrogations, like you hear like, oh, they're playing Metallica and stuff like that. It's like, yeah. Play Taco. That's way creepier.
Way weird.
That's guaranteed to. Like,
I've
oh.
never heard anything else that he's done, so I'm sure he probably has even weirder stuff out there. But and the only reason that I even know that it's Taco is my wife has the satellite radio in her car.
Okay.
So it comes up whenever there's, I don't listen to the radio at all, so I don't know the titles of any of this stuff or who did them or anything like that. Just the stuff that I recognize maybe growing up or something. But yeah, seeing those come up all the time, like, okay, that's who did that. And then that one's just stuck in my head.
Taco putting on the Ritz, his lesser known follow-up single, Slapper with a cracker? No, I don't know. Tacos. I was actually, taco. It's like, listen, I got this band name called Taco, but we're gonna sing about crackers. They got peanut butter, got it. Cheese, got it. On the outside, Ritz crackers.
There is some guy in a boardroom right now just getting a rock hard on right now, just listening to this. Like, oh, yes, this is it. This is the idea we're looking for. This is how we're going to sell more.
Some guy in a boardroom, me right here. Oh, hey, can't get up.
Speaking of which, Frank Shannon says Girth Brooks is money. So he agrees.
I played with him in Hunlock Creek. So that was what I wanted to say. Is one of the many great things about what you're doing with NEPA Scene is that, like, from the open mics, someone there, like, I've been, because of like the live stream and stuff like that, I've been offered shows.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because
I've heard
of
that from a few people.
And so, yeah, like...
And it makes me excited every time I hear it.
And and he was. We played a night in Hunlock Creek together. That was one of the opportunities that I got because of being on the live stream of the open mic, and then just having a presence. So this platform here is something just as much as it's important to have. The live music venues and stuff like that. Like the V Spot's killing it. We got the Ritz. Even the Bog is doing music again. But like you're at the epicenter of it, and like this is like, I feel like on behalf of all musicians, artists, and stuff like that in the area. Thank you so much for like providing an outlet, a platform, a community conduit that is connecting all the different pieces together. It's very much been part of what I would deem Betty White Devil's success thus far, is being able to, you know, be a part of things like this, and then the open mic and stuff like that. You know, like that's.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Because it means that, like, you know, because there's definitely, I get a lot of, you know, handshakes and thank yous and pats on the back and stuff like that, and that's, you know, that's great. And then there's sometimes, you know, you're sitting at home and, you know, it's like, oh, my bank account is in the red, and I'm just like, why am I doing this? Or like, should I keep doing this? Or, you know, is it worth it? You know, is it still, you know, you do it for so many years, and then it's like, are we still making the same impact that we made, you know, just a couple years ago? And like, but then, you know, every time somebody says something like that, it like makes me think, okay, yeah, it is worth doing. It's worth keep going. It's worth, you know, providing this and trying to, you know, improve each time too, and like, you know, get a little bit better. I mean, when we started the live streams, it was a little Facebook stream from my phone. And then that became like, oh, let's have a 2-camera setup. And now let's, you know, just this past week, we're tapping on a soundboard now. You know, originally it was the live room sound, and it's pretty good, but it's not the best. And then, you know, it was like, well, okay, here's the next step that we can do. And each time that somebody donates, buys a t-shirt, something like that, it ends up usually going into stuff like that. You know, just all I need is that, you know, $30 cable. For some reason, cables are $30, or, you know, our soundboard went a couple of weeks ago.
Xfinity cable being $30. Hey yo, price gouging.
Serious. Oh, like,
serious. That's another 200. No, but yeah, like it's what you have created. I don't think that there's not one aspect of the local arts and entertainment scene that you haven't had, like, that you're not responsible for giving like a leg up to. Like,
yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I hope that people are you know, watching and listening and enjoying it, and at the very least being exposed to new things. You know, like the stream is great when we're doing like the open mic and stuff, because it's like 4 or 5 hours long. And there are people who like stay tuned for a good portion of the time.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't believe how many venue owners watch it, and then they book people based on that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like you said, other musicians are like, hey, I've never heard of this guy, but he fits with what I do. Let's, you know, get together and do that. So it's not even just the stuff that we do in person, because obviously, you know, if you go to obviously I always recommend that people go and actually attend and, you know, see it in person, even if you're not performing. You know, because you're going to meet people, you're going to, you know, mingle, you're going to talk, things like that. But with the stream too, you know, people will just tune in at a random time, like pull up their phone at 10 o'clock, they can't sleep or something, and they're like, what the hell's this? Oh, wow, this is really cool, you know, and then they get exposed to a band that they never would have heard otherwise. And then hopefully they go to that show, and then that, you know, you pass it on and you keep going. You know?
Well, I ran into Monk Melville this afternoon downtown.
Yeah.
And like, so as an offshoot of like his experience and time being on the open mic nights, like they now do the Party Poets the last Wednesday of each month.
I love
and stuff.
that.
It's just like, it's definitely NEPA Scene open mic is like the Joe Rogan effect without the controversy. You know? You know what I mean? Like, it's like people know, like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, NEPA Scene open mic. That's the one. Okay, yeah, and like, you know, I try to get down there as much as I can. Like, I'm like working a lot. If I'm working or just kind of not around, yeah, like you said, like I'm able to pull up the live stream and be like, oh yeah, you know, there's so and so, you know, doing their comedy set or their music.
I'll put the shameless plug up on the screen there. Yeah. We're Tuesdays at the V Spot. Sign-ups are 6:30 to 8:30. We usually run all 12:30 or so. And we started doing the Ritz one. We did our first one this past week, and it went really well. It almost went too well because we just had so many people sign up that, you know, I tried to I warned them. I said, guys, like, you know, we're popular enough when we're at the V Spot, but imagine now you have this huge theater that everybody wants to play.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have the all ages part, you know, where you have, you know, kids can come in. We're, you know, we got some like high school kids, which was great. And that added a whole other aspect to it. And it was also the first time that they were putting on something like this. It was the first time that they were using the new sound system, the whole 9 yards. So there were kinks and things to work out. I knew that was going to play a role in it, having done this for so long and, kind of learning sound as I went and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be, hopefully it's going to go well, but it's definitely going to go long. And they weren't prepared for that. So they were like, yeah, we got to we thought we'd be done by midnight. Our employees have got to get out of here. I'm like, I was not planning on that, so I felt terrible that some people didn't get to play. So hopefully, when we do it next Thursday, we told all those people that if you didn't get to play last time, come back. You'll be at the top of the list this time, and try to get those people to come back. I felt bad, but some of those people also then came to the V spot on Tuesday too. So nobody was
like the people that are able to do like the 20 and over crowds, like okay, yeah, let me come out to the. The Tuesday night stuff. Yeah, it's right. And like you're taking photos, that we're all able to use as part of like promo materials and stuff like that. It's like go out. Do it.
Well, to me it's all about adding value. It's adding value to your time coming out. I feel like you guys are the ones who are putting all this time and effort into in your case, like writing these songs and, putting them out and demoing them and then getting together with other musicians to make these, full songs and then recording an album, putting all the time, money, and effort into all of that to have like very few outlets pay attention just drives me crazy, as like a guy who comes from newspapers and media and stuff like that. And it's unfortunate that a lot of our local media just hasn't. All those outlets have gone away. It used to be your alternative weekly publications, and a lot, even just like smaller websites and stuff like that, have gone away. Blogs and things like that. People move on, they do other things, their life changes. I get that too, but there's no outlet for a lot of this stuff. So it's like you put all this time and effort to get it out there, and it's like, how do I reach more people now? So like if there's no sites like mine, then like where do you go? Who do you talk to about them? Who do you how do you promote in any way besides like TikTok and all that kind of shit?
See these kids with their Tic Tacs and their face grams?
I'll never.
Back in my day, you had to just rub someone's face into the stone or papyrus real hard and hope that it stuck. And if it did, you had a post. And if it didn't, your friend was dead. I don't know. Come to the Ritz.
Yes, this Saturday, January 27th at 8. Tickets are $12 and on sale now. So before we get out of here, we'll leave these people with maybe a bit of wisdom. So you had mentioned before that you work with students with the coaching aspect of things. Yeah. So as a coach, as somebody who's trying to get people in the right mindset to perform at their best. What would you say are maybe some of the most important lessons or things that you really try to impart on those kids to make them maybe perform at their top level that maybe could apply to everybody, not just athletes?
Well, in both athletics and art, I think it's important to fail. Obviously you want everything to go according to plan, but in running, we talk about the things that you're able to take care of, the tangible aspects. Like, okay, do I have my trainers, my spikes, my uniform, my warm-ups, I have my fuel, my drinks, stuff like that. Okay, cool. I've gone to practice. I've tried to, maintain healthy eating habits. Healthy sleeping habits are huge. But the moment that gun goes off, especially with people new in an activity, you're going to be constantly presented with situations where you've never been there before. And so I've always felt that it's always better to learn from a poor performance than it is a fantastic workout or practice. You know, like there's always something you can take from and learn from when things don't go right, because you can then reflect on, okay, what would I do differently? And then when you're presented with those situations again, boom, there you go. You've kind of played out that scenario before. So it's the same as with performing live. Yeah, you're gonna forget a lyric. You're gonna miss a chord change and maybe forget like things just here and there. Like even the if you're traveling with your own gear, you might forget a piece of something that you might think is vital, but there's something to the phrase of adapt and overcome. It's something that you learn how much you really can adapt to a situation when you're thrown a curveball. Yeah. And so learn, fail, don't purposely, don't set yourself up to fail, obviously, don't just be sloppy and roll in I haven't practiced in months or whatever. I didn't even check to see if my guitar was in my case. I just picked up the case and walked out with it. Take care of the tangibles, but the moment the gun goes off or that first chord is strummed, just kind of take it as it comes.
See, now that is solid advice. I could not have wrapped it up any better.
Nice.
So now we should definitely make bad jokes and ruin it.
Yeah.
Betty White Devil's debut album, Uranus Ore Mine, is available now on all major streaming platforms. And Betty White Devil opens for Modern Ties and Southside Bandits at the Ritz Theater in downtown Scranton this Saturday, January 27th at 8 p.m. Tickets are $12 and on sale now. I'll put the banner up there. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here? Anything maybe there? I think you said there might be some other shows coming up that we didn't know about yet.
Yeah. So things are filling out, as the days and weeks go by. So we've got the Ritz on Saturday, and then at the in next month, some New York City. We got some Cambridge, Boston area. Then we're coming back to the region. Got some Wilkes-Barre. Just added a Scranton date for the end of March down at the Bog. So keep your eyes peeled, your ears open, your body's hydrated and well rested, and follow on the Instagram page singular. It's gonna be nice. I'm trying to play more in the area, and keep your senses out for those full band dates.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is fantastic, and this is genuinely this is good. This is
we're hoping maybe at some point Lion's Head will see this and maybe send a little of that sponsorship money, because I picked it up because when I had a punk band's Old Daggers on here. And those guys were just fucking pounding them. And they were pounding whatever we had. I had just random stuff from my fridge that I bought. So, it was Yingling, it was a whole bunch of stuff. And they were just pounding them oh man, I got to prepare for that. I got to, I don't really think about having the fridge absolutely stocked. If, 4 guys are going to come in here and they want to, pour their hearts out about their music, they're probably going to have crack open a couple of beers.
Yeah.
Then you have, somebody like Josh on Josh Balls last week who doesn't drink at all. So then, we're safe for a week. And then the next week, might be somebody else who's going to, drink 100 of them. So I was like, well, Lion's Head is cheap. It's at least drinkable. It's decent.
Yeah, no, this is good. And
but then I was like, man, I haven't had this in years, but it is really genuinely good.
Yeah, and also it's, it's still local, right?
Mm-hmm.
So supporting the local.
Yep.
I mean, for myself, I play enough breweries where I feel like I've sampled a good portion of like the Northeast and New England's offerings. But like, yeah, like this is definitely something like I could see myself, drinking more of these in responsible ways.
For sure. Well, this is a Lion's Head Ice. That's a 6%, and it's not like you think it's like a Keystone Light by like the way that the labels like colored and everything like that, but that's not the case.
Also doesn't taste like trash.
Like no, it does not taste like trash.
Like you got your Keystone Ice, which is like, oh man,
yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this stuff is pretty good, and they, you know what, their pumpkin is really good. They have like their own pumpkin.
Okay,
ale.
like in the fall season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's really, really solid because they used to make the Stegmeyer pumpkin, and then Stegmeyer
that's right. Yeah,
bought
that was
the
also
name back.
Yeah.
So I think the recipe also went with that. But then I was, curious, and I kind of did a blind taste test sort of thing where I'm like, okay, I'm going to try both because I always liked the Stegmeyer pumpkin. And then Lion's Head's like, well, we have a pumpkin now too. I'm like, are they really just using the same recipe? Is it just the same thing you guys have been making? You just put a different label on and not say anything?
The left Twix and the right Twix factory.
Yeah, right. And they are close, but it is a little different. And and I'm not gonna lie, the Lion's Head just edged it out for me. In the blind taste test, I was like, I don't know, I kind of like that one just a little bit better. It was so close, but yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta give them credit.
Lion's Head, send them.
Yeah.
Send them the money. Come on.
We're like one of the only shows where we can openly like drink beer and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not gonna see that.
I'll even go back to my commercial audition days.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. If you liked it, please like, share, do all the algorithm things. It really does help us reach more people. Like we were saying before with those, live streams and things like that, we see so many people on. There'll be times we'll be like, 30, 40, 50 people watching at the same time. It's got 10 likes. Like, come on, guys. Just that little like. Really
Don't forget to smash that like button, hit the bell for notifications, leave a comment down below, and we'll catch you next time on the NEPA Scene Podcast Extravaganza.
He's got that YouTube shit down.
Don't forget to hydrate, eat your vegetables, and get some sleep.
Thanks again, guys. See you soon.